Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. So excited today. I've got singer-songwriter Callie McCullough with me. So welcome, Callie.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Michael.
That was a very country hey. That would have, go ahead.
You know what's interesting about that is, so I'm from Canada, but my family is from two places, and my mom's entire side of the family is from a place called the Beaver Valley, if you can believe that.
It sounds country.
It does not get, we have our own brand of rednecks up there as well. It does not get more country than growing up in the Beaver Valley. So sometimes people are like, oh, you have like a Southern American accent. I was like, no, you got to go to the Beaver Valley. That's where it came from.
So if I was watching Canadian TV, is there a show that would have the Beaver Valley accent on it?
Not exactly, but very close. So if you watch the show Schitt's Creek, that's very close to where I grew up. And then also Letterkenny, which is more of an internet sensation.
I watched Letterkenny.
Okay, so Letterkenny, I am pretty darn sure I actually played at the bar that they're always at multiple times. So it's shot in a town called Listowel. And I'm like, the show is not even funny to me because it's just like, I'm like, yep, what's your point? Like, it's not even funny. Like, the entire thing is my childhood. I went to this high school that, the theme song was Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy. And like people, got drunk and shed parties and like the whole thing, the skid kids, the whole, like everything about it, the doing the barn chores, the everybody wearing flannel. I'm like, this is not even funny. This was just how I grew up. Like,
it's how I grew up. I can relate to that. I had a feeling you were going to say Letterkenny. That's why I asked the question. And Schitt's Creek, I can totally see too. I can totally see that.
All that area. And then, a lot of times people are like, oh, you're from Canada, like Trailer Park Boys. I'm like, okay, but that's a spoof. Like, they're doing that on purpose. Like,
Well, your accent would fit pretty well in West Virginia. You would fit right in here.
Well, then I should come visit in the near future.
Yeah.
As the world opens up again, then it is time to get back out and go to some new places and do some new shows.
Are you ready to tour yet?
Yes, the most ready. We were ready to tour when the album dropped in March of 2020. Had all kinds of dates lined up, rescheduled them a couple times, and ended up being like, let's just wait for spring 2022. So we've been keeping busy with lots of good things, but I cannot wait. I'm about to do a couple big shows in Canada. I'm headed up home in November. So I'm very excited to do some concert shows. Fortunately, Nashville stayed pretty open. So I've been able to do some small shows around town, but to me, like the rush of just like hitting, like I love driving, I love hitting the road and like meeting the people, seeing the scenery, checking out the town. I'm really into super old historic theaters, especially if they're kind of falling down a bit. I like them even more. Like the decrepitness is very charming. So so ready.
I'll just mention we're like 5 hours away from you.
There you go.
That far. You're in a bus.
That's a very easy drive. That's child's play.
So the theater we're in a little town called St. Albans, and it's on Main Street, and there's an old Main theater right here. It's called the Albany.
Nice. Oh, nice. Well, I'm writing it down.
You need to write it down.
I'm gonna look
at it.
I'll tell you
another one that's about 20 minutes from us is Keith Albee. And it's amazing. It's like an old opera house theater.
Oh, nice.
A lot of musical acts come through there, but they're smaller, so it's kind of intimate. It's more like the movie theater size, maybe about that size.
Love that. Yeah, I have a thing for old things like old books, old theaters, old movies, vintage clothing, old records, definitely old guitars. We discussed this earlier, broken old gear. I think for old things. Very enchanted by old buildings as long as they're not haunted.
Yeah. Although a lot of people like the haunted buildings.
Yeah, I don't, not so much.
I know. Why would you take the chance? Even if you didn't believe in any of it, why take that chance?
Well, I think So my great grandmother was a Native American medicine woman. I know I look so white. I look so white, right? And I think my whole family has a little bit of that like woo-woo sensitivity running through us. And we do, like, every single one of us, if we walk into a building and the vibe is bad, we're gone. We just can't do it. Can't be there.
There you go. There you go. If I go to any haunted areas, house, cemetery, whatever it's supposed to be, I got to take you with me. And then if you get the heebie-jeebies, I'm out of there. If you're okay, then I should be fine.
I can't do cemeteries either. You know, and like and if I do cemeteries, something really weird always happens. So this is such a random story. I was singing at an outdoor service this spring. And while we're there, we're singing like a couple songs for the family, myself and a fiddle player that I'm friends with. I got hacked on Facebook in that time period. And I was like, I knew it. It was a cemetery. I knew I shouldn't have gone to the cemetery. Like, never been hacked in my life until cemetery.
Got cursed.
No, I'm telling you.
Get it.
It's the thing.
I've got a good friend, childhood friend, and we had one of the paranormal shows came through West Virginia, and his family's got this house that was built in the 1840s, and it's supposed to be haunted. It's not. We grew up in it. We're in it constantly. It is not haunted, but it was supposed to be, and it looks like it could be. I'll give it that. So they had to have someone that was outside the family to confirm the hauntedness. Right. So that was me. So I got on there, yes, all this stuff happened. Absolutely true. None of it.
Hard no, don't do it. Yeah. Say no.
It was not true. None of it. But after that show aired, and it played repeatedly for a year, just constantly on. It's been, I don't know, 15 years since we did that show, and there's still people showing up on his door wanting to tour this haunted house, which is attached to a cemetery. So it's like, people, it's not haunted.
No.
When I say that, and it's probably like legit haunted. It's I'm probably repressing childhood trauma or something that happened.
Yeah. Like the ghost repressed it in you, but like you definitely.
Now I just say, not haunted. It actually is.
For sure.
Sorry, so we're way off track. So let me back up.
I know. I'm good at that. We're gonna be over here talking about nothing related for a whole hour.
Yeah. All right. That's basically my show. So we'll
have more fun. It'll be good.
Talk to me a little bit about what made you want to be a musician. I know your parents were musical, and how did you go about getting into the music business?
Well, so yes, I was definitely born right into the thick of musical family, music industry. My parents in Canada, my mom had, been nominated for Canadian Country Music Awards and June Awards. My dad was a big rock, blues, folk guy. My mom was very traditional country bluegrass. My dad tried his very hardest to get me into rock music, just never clicked. Went down the rabbit hole. They put us in piano lessons when we were very little. We grew up backstage. I defiantly was like, well, I don't want to play piano because my sister does. So I'm going to play guitar. Picked up guitar when I was 8. All of our music lessons were always from like stoned old hippies that my parents were friends with. And, it was an inch, but we also, by the same token, lived in the middle of nowhere. So it was like the only thing to do. It was like, you can go in your room and practice, or you can like go fall in the creek, that's kind of it. So, got really just kind of was born always, making up songs to myself, wandering around the yard, making up little songs, being a weirdo. Spent a solid third of my childhood sitting in front of the CD player, blasting out my hearing, and my parents just had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of albums. And I would, get into them. And I really fell in love with, traditional country music and 90s country music. And then later, folk music and Celtic music and bluegrass music. And So by the time I was 14, I was out playing, little like 5-song shows in the downtown, whatever. Fell into a Celtic band for a little while, and we did like the big Irish ballads with 3 fiddlers and the whole thing. And was doing my own thing. And then my mom and I had like a duo, like folk, bluegrass, Americana. We toured all over Canada and the States. And then when I graduated college, I went and joined a band that was based in Europe and toured all over Europe with them. My parents tried their very hardest to get me to do something other than music because they wanted me to have an easy life. They were like, she's going to go to law school. It's going to be great. She's going to have a real job. So they forced me to go to college. I did not want to be there. I was like sleeping through class and or like sending out invites for my band's gigs on the weekend. So kind of like managed to scrape through those 4 years, basically just being out playing shows 4 nights a week and managing to sleep when I was dead, get the college degree. And as soon as I was done, I was like, I didn't go to my graduation. I went on tour to Europe. And then, when that ended, went on tour to California. And at that point, I kind of was like, okay, I need to, and I had been coming back and forth to Nashville since I was about 18. I was like, all right, I want to do it. And I like bought a separate vehicle from the band, put my stuff in it. Tour was over, was on a work visa still, put all my crap in this van, drove across country, moved to Nashville, and that was it. So that was kind of the start of me becoming a solo artist. And I was like, I just knew that I wanted to write full time and get really good at that. I had been writing songs since I was 14, but I knew that I wanted to really focus on the craft of writing. And I knew that the roots of the music that I love were coming out of the South, that I was like, I was really at the same time chasing down, like, where is this bluegrass music coming from? Where is this roots music coming from? Because it's not coming from Canada. That much I know. So that was it.
If you weren't a musician, what would you be in college for? Or what'd you get your degree?
I have no idea what I was in college for. I was in college for parent pleasing. I have a full English lit degree, and then I also have a marketing specialty as well in like business marketing. I don't use either of those things. Maybe, I don't know. I think if I, was going to go talk to my 18-year-old self, I'd be like, hey, don't go to college. You don't need that. If I wasn't a musician, I would probably be a comedian. So like none of these life paths would be solid.
That's right. It's a little dicey. That's a little fun.
Yeah. I'll just kind of roll off the couch, shake off the mothballs, and hope for the best every day. That's what it is, right?
Do you play any instruments other than guitar?
Well, I play guitar well, and I play banjo, mandolin, and piano badly.
Okay.
And I say badly, like, badly by Nashville bluegrass standards.
Oh, okay. I was going to say by that standard, I also play mandolin, banjo, and piano.
Yeah, like I play those things enough for my own, maybe pull it out for a couple songs, enough to write with, enough to enjoy, but not enough. Yeah, not enough to go on stage and go like la 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 la. Nope. But I mean, really,
I can see where that would be useful if you're writing, because then you can get the music for it.
I mean, and I think too, I have certain things as a guitar player that I've really dug into, like finger style feels and interesting chord changes and open tuning. Certain things that I've really focused on, always focus more on acoustic playing and collecting different guitars that have, different tonal qualities and having an arsenal like that. I've always been a purist. I'm not into having a ton of pedals. I want each guitar to really resonate its own thing, but in the big scheme of things, I'm a lazy guitar player. The time that I have, but the thing that I have put every shred of passion and time into is being a singer, Right. But I've had chapters where I really dug into the guitar playing, I was bored as shit during the pandemic. I was like, I'm gonna learn some good tricks.
I was going to say, most people found something to do in the pandemic that usually involved a musical instrument.
Yeah, mine might have involved a lot of herbal substances, which are legal in Canada, but not so legal here. Time just
But
went,
we're getting there.
whoop-de-doo.
Getting there.
The time just flew by. No
Yeah,
idea
yeah,
what
that
happened.
can help at times. That can help.
No
So
idea.
how did you find all these different guitars? Were you writing and saying, I need a guitar that sounds like this, or do you just try out all these different guitars and say, oh, that has a nice sound, maybe I'll use that?
Yeah, I'm a nerd,
Yeah.
and I think I've been surrounded by musicians from my parents, my uncles, my, parents' friends, and then friends, in the music industry. I mean, I've spent a solid third of my life, including sleeping, like a third of my life around musicians. So I just have always, and it's the guitars that you didn't buy because you were broke, or you were like, oh no, something better will come along, right? Like they haunt you. And so I am still haunted by like a guitar that I didn't buy when I was 18. And it haunts me to this day. And it's always, like the one-off, like the vintage consignment finds thing. But I'm like, I almost bought this year. This was bad. I was down at Carter Vintage because I had a friend in town, and I try not to go there when I don't have money, which is especially the last year and a half, like pretty much the whole last year and a half. And so I meet up with him at Carter because he's visiting, and I find a 1960s Gibson tenor guitar, like with the tiny little neck, right? And I pick it up. I have no idea what it is. And I'm like, I need this. It's not consignment. It's like $2,000. I talk them into like, they're going to let me buy it for $1,500. I'm trying to get extra credit on my credit line. And I'm like, well, I'm going to be a good girl. I'm going to leave. I'm going to think about this. We go over to Gruen Guitars just up the street. Find a 1940s one.
Oh my goodness.
1940s Gibson tenor guitar. And now it's like amazing. And I'm like, okay, no, this is the one, but this one's now like $4,000. I'm going, okay, so we know we don't need the $1,500 one because this is the one, and there's always, man, but I have like my main guitar that I roll with a lot, especially if I'm just taking one guitar out. I have a bourgeois OM Country Boy. And he's like a boutique guitar builder. And so that one I roll with a lot because it's a little bit smaller. So it's easier to travel with. And that's my main baby. And then we have many, many, many ones, but a lot of like the really nice ones don't have pickups and they don't leave the studio.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. You gotta be careful with those.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, so when you were in school growing up, were you in band or did you play sports? What did you do during school?
Oh, what did I do? I spent a good amount of time getting sent to the hall for talking back to the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Like the trigonometry and calculus. I'm going, am I ever going to use this?
That's the rock and roll background side of you.
It was more just like, I'm like, what is the point of this? Callie, go to the hall. Like that's the story. No, you know what? I was a theater kid, really into that.
Yeah.
I was a big nerd. High School Music did not love me. Like lowest grade in every lowest grade I would ever have be like vocal class. They'd be like, stop adding notes. I'm like, but they're supposed to be there. You just can't hear it because the paper didn't tell you to. So I definitely had some struggles with the High School Music program. We didn't get along. And I was a theater kid, and
teachers love it when you ask, what's the point? Teachers love that.
Listen, like I've always had that rebel spirit for whatever the cause that I was like indignant about. I've always had one,
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Are you the type of person that if you don't have one, you just make one up?
I don't make one up, but I like being happy. I like to be happy. Like, there are just certain things you can't unsee. Right. And if you like, in fairness, right. If you said to me now as 30 something, Callie, sit on the floor, cross-legged of this cement gymnasium for an hour and a half and don't fidget and don't talk and pay attention, I'd be like, screw you. I'm not sitting on a cement floor cross-legged for an hour and a half.
Fair.
Of course I'm going to get in trouble. It's a stupid thing to ask someone to
Yeah,
do.
that's fair.
You know, there's a lot of that. I'm like, what? You know?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot about school that's a little ridiculous the way we do.
But I was a nerdy kid. I got very good grades, and in the college thing happened because they had given me a scholarship, and I was like, well, it's free now. So
Yeah, you have to go now.
Right.
Yeah.
So
did you go to school in Canada or here?
Yeah, so I went to the University of Guelph, which really, again, randomly, no idea why we went to school, is an agricultural college, specializing in veterinary medicine and agriculture science. And that's what they're most known for. So super practical to my life. It was an hour from where my parents lived. It allowed me to stay in my bands, and it was a free ride. And I showed up and I graduated, and that's all I have to say about it. I'm not sure I got a lot out of it.
When you were touring with your mom, did you have a name for the duo?
Yeah. So we went by the Wildwood Flowers for many years. And then at one point we changed our name to McCullough Girls, which was a weird name change. And then we folded kind of shortly after that. But yeah, no, we had, you know, that's just part of like the traditional country music bluegrass family. Like that's such a common story. You know, we all had the family band, right?
Well, yeah, of course.
We all had the family bands, but it was great. And you know, it was, you know, sort of in the style of like a group like the Isaacs, like those really weaving family harmonies. And so that was something that I, you know, I carry with me now, is a lot of those roots, and the same with the Celtic music and the folk circuit. I had been a part of. My dad was always playing at different folk festivals. And so I spent most of my, you know, from 8 years old to like, you know, 15 till I was out touring myself at all these folk festivals all summer. And there's just so much background and roots in all of those worlds, you know, from having grown up that way and been exposed to, you know, things outside of the radio.
Right. When you get together as a family, is it like just a big jam session?
I would say less these days. But they definitely, like, family Christmas gets pretty loud, you know, and usually, you know, for me too, at this point, because I am fortunate that I'm able to make a living and I'm able to get up most days of the week and either play a show or write a song or be in the studio, that when I go home, I'm like, guys, can I just like eat some turkey and tap out? And they're like, I love my family. They're so supportive. They want to hear everything about Nashville, what's going on with the record, with the touring, with all the things. And all they want to do is talk music. And I'm like, I want to do anything but talk music right now. Can we talk about like the cat and the kid and the, you know,
when you
the
can bring out
crops,
your college degrees and talk, you know, marketing or something.
Yeah, no, we just, you know, but you know what family is like. It's everybody's family's crazy. Everybody's family has the same 5 things that they talk about. Grandma's always trying to make you fatter. And, you know, one uncle always drinks too much. And, you know, one cousin's always having a baby. And that's the usual.
There is a reason those are stereotypes. It's because everybody has them.
Well, I mean, everybody's got, I mean, if you're lucky, you have a big family. If you're lucky, you have family to laugh around with, you know, if you're lucky.
So I've been listening to your music. You've got a beautiful voice.
Thank you.
Yes, it's a lot of your songs are very, I would say, bittersweet. Like they evoke a lot of emotion, which I think is really neat. I absolutely love the songs. And I'll tell you one that I really liked that maybe you won't guess. This is the one, but I liked Feathers.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really liked it. That's the one I kept coming back to. I was like, I really like that one.
You know, it's an interesting tune, and we actually haven't played that one out a whole lot because we wrote it right before we went into the studio. But it really, and it's kind of the odd duck on that record. And I literally was like, guys, we have up-tempo songs, but none of them fit this record. Like we need one. we need something really rootsy. And we were staring at the wall, and there was a photo of feathers on the wall, and they were like, me and Ryan were like, feathers, we're writing about feathers. We're doing this today. It's happening.
I like it.
But it really came to life. We had Stuart Duncan and Brent Burke, who plays dobro for Rhonda Vincent, and they really just brought it on fire with the dobro and the fiddle. And for me, that's what makes that song is
it is absolutely
them being on it. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good. So the album is After Midnight.
Yes.
And it is loaded with good songs.
Thank you.
Every one of them on there, I just absolutely love. Do you have a favorite?
Well, I guess I have two favorites for two different reasons. I have $5 Pearls is my favorite because it is the most personal to me.
Yeah.
And I love, I've always loved that song. It was also the first song that I was like, okay, this is who I'm going to be as an artist. When we wrote that song, because I had been writing so many years in bands, so many years of not really hearing my own voice. And I had sat down, the night before the write and just kind of a verse chorus, like vomited it out. I don't know if that's good. Let me write that down. Like bring that tomorrow. Brought it in and he was like, yep, we're doing that. And it just kind of spilled out like this little piece of magic. And when I listened to it back, I was like, oh, like this is me. I get it. So it's special to me for that reason. I'm a big sucker for, that obviously I have a sore spot for, ballads and sad songs, but that, that dobro mandolin instrumentation.
Yeah.
That's like, for me, that always feels like going home,
Yeah.
So I have a soft spot for that song, but I also have, just back to the rebel without a cause or rebel with a cause is, 3/4 time is like, that's my fight of the good
They're
fight
really
for country music these days. And so I have a lot of emotion behind that one. I'm like, this shit happened. This is the story.
You can feel the emotions, that one. Really good.
So that is, and I'm excited, we're rolling it out now as a new single and we shot a great video for it. It's very tongue in cheek. It's very funny. So I'm excited for all of that to come out as kind of the last push on this record because it was a pandemic record. So we kept trying to revive it here and there. And so we had some, we had some good stuff happen. We got nominated for a country music award in Canada where I'm from for Roots Album of the Year, which was also special to me because I'm like, obviously now if you make country music, they call you Roots, right? Because they don't know what country music is anymore. And so that was cool. And I thought, okay, this is our chance to do, one more push on this record. And I really want to, hang my hat and my story on 3/4 time, before we move on to the next project. So I think it's really fun to have gotten to remix it, roll it out again and do the video that I always thought I would get to do. That was kind of like hanging in the balance of COVID. I tried to shoot this video multiple times and there were so many shutdowns and we finally got to do it. It turned out great. It's really funny. I get to be sassy in it. So AKA I get to be myself.
That doesn't sound like you at all.
I get to be myself. And because so much of what I've done, and I love beautiful music, and I will always go for the sad song and the ballad. But people come up to me and they're like, "So are you just really sad?" I'm like, "No, like I never shut up. I'm very happy." So it was fun to get to bring some sass into that video for sure.
What's 3/4 time about?
What isn't it about? It is well, first of all, and I've said this, I have a deep sense of respect for traditional country music and the roots of this genre and of all types of roots music, of bluegrass, of Celtic, of folk. And I think now we have so many people being like, well, I'm just going to do country now. I'm like, oh no, please don't. And it, to me it's like this fight. And I had a conversation recently and it was like, well, the fight has never changed. I read a radio tracking report from 1967 that they were having trouble getting fiddle and steel played on country radio. 1967.
Wow.
And so I think the fight has always been the same, is that you're on the outside until you're not. And everything is about fitting this tiny, narrow little mold, which frankly isn't that good. And and so I think
I'm with you.
For those of us that have roots and respect for traditional country music, it's one of those things that it strikes a nerve and you feel the way you feel. And of course, to be very positive, everybody who's having a career and working their butt off, and I respect that. I respect the shit out of everybody and what they're doing. But for me, it's always been not about doing the thing that is fastest to get a career, but about doing what I loved and letting the career happen around that, but really focusing on the music coming first and the music being what drives it. Not doing, it's the number of times I've had the conversation in industry meetings of, well, okay, but you're pigeonholing yourself and you're doing things that don't sell. And if you would just do this, we could do all these things for you. And this has happened to me so many times. And we got the line, they gave me their songs and a piece of me died. And I'm sitting there and they're going, this is your first single. I'm going, hey, this cannot be my first single. This is not happening. And it was, you're literally weighing your hopes, your dreams, your ambitions, and your finances against, passion and integrity. And you're going, and it's a fight. And I never, ever imagined, you're a kid, you're growing up, you love music, you're a musical family. You go, I never thought I'd have to fight to make music that I like. Like that shit, to me, it was just like, well, duh. Of course you're going to make music you like. What else would you do? But as it turns out, it's not that simple. So it's a lot about that. That's basically the story. And every line in the song is something that actually happens. I did turn over a tip jar playing downtown that, there were 20s, 5s, 10s, 1s, and out comes a nickel and 4 pennies. It's 9 cents. And I was like, wow, that's woof. Like, I hope that a 5-year-old put it in there and I didn't notice, but I'm sure probably not. Yeah. And so the next day we're in the right, and it's, me of my 2 best friends. And this is hot off of me rejecting the songs that have been sent to me. And a lot of things have fallen apart very quickly because I've decided I'm going to fight the fight. And I said, yep. Somebody gave me 9 cents last night. I guess I'm not going to make a dime singing this music. And it sort of spitballed, and 3/4 time became the story of this record that my close friends and I had talked to multiple producers. There were different, industry things on board. And I just said, I want to make the record that I want to make. And I want to step out as the musician and artist that I believe in. And so if that means scraping tip jar gigs together to pay for this, I'm going to do that. And we did it ourselves. It was, I co-wrote by accident this whole album with 2 of my best friends, Scotty Kipper and Ryan Sorstad. And it was produced by Dustin Olian, who is our other best friend. And we just got to talking in the kitchen. We were all new kids in town, and it all came together. We started calling up some of our heroes, and one by one got them to agree. They're not normal session musicians. They're not usually just for hire.
Yeah.
The Union Station and the Time Jumpers, and one by one kind of sent them the songs and had conversations on the phone, and everybody agreed to come in for a few days at the tracking room and really make this rootsy record.
I mean, those are big time musicians. Big
yes. Time. Yeah. And it was a dream.
That's Alison Krauss' band, right?
Yes. Yes.
The other one, I think, Time Jumpers, Vince Gill.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're about a 9-piece Western swing band. They play every Monday night in Nashville, and it's the best show in town. Every time people visit town, I say, you got to come on a Monday because you got to go see the Time Jumpers. Don't miss it. And to be able to do that and have them actually believe and champion the music, to say yes to come on the record outside of just a paycheck, right. Because it wasn't about that. And for these, new kids to be like, no, we believe in this and we can do this. And we made this record ourselves. And, Dustin and I did spend a lot of time in the studio, just the 2 of us, building certain things up from the ground. And he was very, methodical and passionate about everything being actually me, very organic to me. There was never a conversation of this doesn't fit the mold, this won't play on radio. This we all kind of looked at each other and like, we don't give a mat about any of that. We're going to make a record that we love.
Yeah. Well, it has to be validating when established musicians are willing to work with you. Because if I mean, there's one thing about maybe they need a paycheck. Most of the time, though, if the music's not any good, they're not going to do it.
Well, I think, that project specifically was kind of its own movie. It really didn't operate like a traditional Nashville session. It was really kind of a passion project for all of us. And it also took a long time to get to the finish line, mostly because I was paying for it out of tip jar gigs. So it was a little bit of time. And so by the time we started, we put the first single out in 2019, and it took a couple of years to get it to the finish line because, one, we really took our time to do something artistic, and two, I was broke as shit. And I still am now. But I love it and I stand behind it, and I will always stand behind it. And as an artist, I'm working on new music now. I haven't started recording it, but we've been writing it, demoing it, and I kind of know what the next step is going to be. And you'll see the progression and the growth, but I will always look at that record and go, that was so me at that time. It was like, if you put me as a genie in a bottle in those years, that was that record. We got it. And I think I've made other records in bands, and you don't always get to say that.
No, I think that's true. And part of the reason I really love the songs on the album or the record is because part of the problem, I think, in music that comes out today, a lot of it, is that the lyrics aren't as good as what I grew up with. And this album, it has kind of that older country feel, and your voice definitely lends to that. And I think it kind of harkens back to the songs I was listening to, riding in the back of my dad's car going to school, that type of thing. And I love it. I just think it's so good that I know when people hear it, they're going to be like, that brings back a lot of memories. It's just really good.
Well, I might be losing you. We had a little.
I saw that. We glitched up there.
I think we're good now.
All right, good.
Well, thank you. From most of what I caught of that, thank you. I appreciate that very much. And I think, for me, there's also this thing that's going around where people are doing like throwback music.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very conscious of that what I really want to do. And I think especially with that album, in the way that we produce it, the songs just came to life in and of themselves. And what writing songs is like, someday it's just a fight, and some days they fall from the sky. Like you're bringing them into the world out of nothing, and they want to come to life as who they are. And I think especially in Nashville, there's so many times you get into the room where it's like, oh, well, so and so would write it this way, and so and so would say it this way, and if we write it this way, and it's got to be this short, and it's got to be this, and we didn't do any of that with these songs. And I've been in, I've written hundreds and hundreds of songs, and these are the ones that kind of floated to the top contenders for this album, because every single one of them was very organic. Some of them were like up all night kind of writes with some red wine, and some of them were some herbal substances, and some of them were like coffee in the living room, and some of them were like in my bedroom crying. And so they came to life very organically. But when we went to produce the record, it was like each song needs its own thing. We're going to let each song be what it needs to be. And it was, let's take some of that. Like, I listen to music with my feelings almost more than my ears. I listen to music with my feelings. So
get that.
I want that feeling of nostalgia to come forward, but I want it to be new and fresh. I want it to be me, not me trying to be whatever. And so I think, Dustin was so, just visionary, and being able to really see me of who I was actually going to become before I was quite there yet, because the songs are babies and they need to grow up. Right. And that's what recording a song does, is it takes a baby and it grows it into a teenager, and then you take it out on the road and it becomes an adult. Like in the life cycle of a song, to me, that's how I feel like they grow up. Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually really good. Missing You was another one that I really
Thank you. That's see, I told you I was a nerd. I can be real nerdy about certain things.
You weren't lying.
Oh.
So when you were growing up, or even today, who were your kind of musical inspirations? Who'd you listen to?
I was gonna say growing up. Who says I've grown up? Well, yeah. I mean, there were a lot, and they sort of spread of within a couple genres, a pretty vast realm. I, being Canadian girl, like I was 8 years old listening to Celine Dion. I still own every Celine Dion record, and I will not hear bad things about her.
No, not for me.
So Celine Dion was like my one that was like over there, but everything else, my dad introduced me to John Prine. I think I was about 5 years old. My first, I fell in love with a country singer was Pam Tillis. And I listened to so much Pam Tillis that I had to stop listening to her because I was starting to sound exactly like her. And one by one, at used record stores and Salvation Armies, I would find all of her old CDs. It took me years to get them all. Joanie Mitchell was a big one that I fell into, in my teenage years. Gordon Lightfoot was a huge influence for me, especially fingerstyle guitar. Sure. Eva Cassidy cracked onto the scene when I was about 15, those, demos that after she had passed had really exploded. And something for me that was so special about her, outside of her being one of the most incredible vocalists that ever lived. And she had this way of back phrasing and really singing behind the beat. Right. And she also had this gift where she would take these songs and really transform them into her own versions. And that is something that stuck with me, that I, when I cover a song, it sounds very little like the original. It is my own version. I got 4 hours of unrecognizable covers, but they're, but it's that artistry of,
that's right,
making everything your own, and that was something that really sat with me. And then, in the country music realm, I fell into, like I was really, by the time I was like 15, I was like digging for the next piece of the puzzle of like, where is this coming from? So Simon and Garfunkel was a big one that came into my world.
Yeah.
And then it was like from there, it was like country music when I was little, then it was like folk music. And then it was like back down the rabbit hole of really traditional country music. And so I started digging, and we'd be out traveling. I'd always go to like Salvation Armies and see what I could find. Right. I got into the greatest hits of Don Williams when I was about 17. And Don Williams then became my bar for me with Don Williams is, yes, the singing is great. Yes, the songs are great. But what you get when you listen to a Don Williams song or an album is you always get that feel. It's that great, relaxed, feels like coming home, and that's what you're always going to get out of Don Williams. And so that became my bar of like, yes, I want things to, and then it was James Taylor. And then it was, one by one would have these obsessions with, and
I love that.
The number of like little bumps and dents I had because I had about 30 CDs just kind of rolling around the floor of my minivan, and I'm like looking for them, and I'm like driving in a snowstorm, and I'm like putting makeup on and the whole thing. And I still have like 40 CDs in my car. My car is old and crappy enough that it still has a CD player. And I love that because I was digitizing and trying to, reduce my footprint and have less stuff, last year. And so I thought, okay, everything that is digital, I will let these CDs go. But I realized I had at least 100 CDs that couldn't be found digitally anywhere. They were so old and so carefully, cultivated over so many years. I was like, well, I have to keep them. Like, I can't find this anywhere online. I'm going to have to keep this, like really old Buck Owens records, really old, just all kinds of like offbeat, like live records of different things. And so, but it's always, if any given album comes on, if you hand me an album, there's gonna be like your 2 or 3 singles and hits, and then I'm gonna find this ballad that nobody cared about, and I'll be like, that's my favorite. That's the one that for me does it. And that's been my story.
Yeah. So 15-year-old Callie, what posters were up in the bedroom?
None. I had this
Really?
like this guitar poster of all like the chords and all the things, but like it was so busy you couldn't really read it, and I was like, wow, why is this here? Yeah, I just had that. I didn't have a lot of posters. We did not grow up with a lot of extra money. We did also not grow up very close to a shopping mall. So, and this is pre-internet shipping. Like, I mean, you couldn't order a pizza where I lived. You drove, 30 minutes to the convenience store. It was like, and my parents were very, they never wanted us to be like, have a lot of stuff. They wanted us to have, experiences and relationships.
That's good parenting.
And we had instruments. There were guitars hanging on the wall, like it's like that house was full of gear and guitars. My dad had his own home studio. All my apartments were full of gear and guitars. Now this house is full of gear and guitars. And what else is new?
Yeah, that's pretty great. That's pretty great. Are you creative in any other way outside of music?
Well, I guess like the people that know me would say I'm creative in the way that I view. This is where I say the comedy thing comes in, is that I've pretty much always got some kind of a bit that I'm on. Like I've always got some kind of a spiel and a bit of something that I've found to be funny and have spun it into a tale. So I guess I'm creative in that way. What else do I do? No, like, I mean, I used to maybe be creative with cooking. Now I don't know. I just eat chicken and rice. No, no, like I'm not one of these girls that's creative with makeup. I'm into shopping, but I'm broke.
I mean, do you have plans at some point to take this musical comedy act and, try that route?
Well, no, it's not about musical comedy, but I think I am, because I was, musically, there's all this, beautiful, intimate music. And I was really trying to play the role of what that artist would present themselves like on stage. And then over the pandemic was like, nah, I'm just going to give myself permission to be the strange human I am. And so, it's been interesting, and I'm about to go put on, we've been playing shows in Nashville, but in terms of like big concerts, I have my first ones coming up at the end of November. And I think it's going to be, it is a couple sold out shows. And we're filming them as well and doing all that. So it feels a little high pressure, right? Filming the show, just did all the wardrobe, which was fun. And I guess I've finally given myself permission to not have to play any role other than I'm just going to show up and be who I am and say what I think. And to, not feel like I have to be the demure girl and the $5 Pearls is a lot about that. It's me thinking, everybody wants, the quiet girl and the nice girl and the sweet girl and the demure girl. I'm like, that's just never going to be me. It's not going to be who I am. And so, I think this next run of touring is going to be fun for me to really just be myself and we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be funny. Maybe it won't be.
No, I'm sure it's going to be great because as I said, you've got a beautiful voice. The songs are well written. It's really good. It's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Callie, this has been a ton of fun. We got to do it again. You got to come back after you record a little bit and tell me how it went.
We'll tell you some of the road stories because there's never not some weirdos. Wherever you go, there will always be something strange that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
of course. I'm sure you've got some hilarious fan stories. We gotta get into that next time.
That's the problem, is that, I'm still very young, but I started at it so young that I've forgotten more than I remember. It's been like 15, 17 years of gigging. I just started so young, and that going, man, I've forgotten more. Everybody tells you, you write this down, get a journal. And I didn't do it.
Journal. Yeah. You missed the boat. It's not too late.
Listen, I gotta start now.
Start now.
Starting
Get
from
you a
here.
journal. So I think we've covered everything, but is there anything else that you have going on or upcoming that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
No, I got a cat and I'm a cat lady and I spend most of my time talking to my cat now. So like,
Is
yeah,
it one
I'm not that
cat or
interesting.
many cat?
No,
One
no,
cat
no.
or many?
It's one cat.
Okay,
You know,
okay.
she needed a home, and so now I have this cat that goes on the road, and that's about it. I'm trying to think. I'm sure that I'm doing something interesting.
What's her
but
name?
Kitty. Yep. Shots are
Okay.
fired.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent.
Yep.
So
Yep.
so the album is After Midnight. Where can we find After Midnight?
Yeah, so you can order physical copies off of my website, which is www.calliemccullough.com. And then you can download it, stream it, listen to it everywhere that music is sold: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, all of the big ones, all the little ones. You can stalk us all over the internet.
Yeah, your website's really well done, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I was just thinking I had to redo that. I did that myself, and I know
Yeah, you
very
did a
little
good
about
job on it.
computers. Thank you.
No, it is.
That makes
really
me feel
good.
better.
But I've been on a lot of the, especially
It's on my
websites.
make it better to do list, so that makes me feel better.
Yeah, it's really good. It's very easy to navigate. It's for us that aren't the best at navigating.
Listen,
that's really good.
Always keep it simple. Technology complications are not our friend.
Yeah,
it's
I agree.
Just not.
Agree. That's why my son does all the hard stuff. I get the easy job. I do the talking, but he does all the behind the scenes stuff. I couldn't handle.
Yeah, I don't have children, and I think would it be frowned upon for me to have a child just to do technology for me?
No,
Probably.
I think that's fair. That's the way people used to do it. They used to have children to work the farm or whatever. So
right, and then in bluegrass we have children because we need another banjo player, and
that's right.
But good times. Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been hilarious.
20 years from now, you could have a whole band.
I'm not going to touch that one. I'm not sure that I'm going to have any children. You're going to call me back in a year. I'm going to have 10 cats.
Yeah.
I'm going to be like, come,
that's
my
the
precious.
warning sign.
Come, my children, my precious. Yeah. It's going to get weird.
And yes, you're so welcome. This has just been absolutely great. How about other social media? Where can we find you on that?
Yes. So social media, the thing that is destroying music entirely. It's just
a little bit
personal vendetta. No, you know what? I do the Instagram and the Facebook and the Twitter. It's all at Callie MC Music. They tell me now that I must tick and talk, so I now have TikTok. It is at Callie MC Music.
Yeah, I can't do the TikTok.
I'm gonna fight how much it hurts my soul to get on TikTok and do the thing.
I bet you'd be really good on TikTok.
Here's my thing with social media, right? Like it's amazing. We can reach everybody in the world. But the amount of time that we're all supposed to spend curating social media takes away from the amount of time that we become good at making music. And that it bothers me.
Yeah,
I guess I will always be a purist. And if I could have existed before social media existed, I would have been very happy. But I've jumped on the train and I'm doing it in a way that I can feel sane about. But so all of them are at Callie MC Music. I try to make it pretty simple to find me on all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's not bad. That's not bad. And I agree. Social media, it's a necessary evil.
You gotta learn to tick and talk these days. It's
so
part of the trade.
When I was, years ago, starting out of college, I was working for Ticketmaster, and at that time, this was pre-internet, and it was the best because you just had hundreds of people on the phone taking ticket orders,
right?
And it got really complicated once the internet came. You would think it'd be easier, and it is on the front side, the backside though, much more complicated. It was so much simpler when you were just, taking orders over.
I was very, very thankful to Ticketmaster in 2020 because, I will give them props on this. They really had everybody's back with the COVID stuff, and they made it very easy to refund everybody's money and reschedule. And I thought that was really, really commendable, how much that they wanted to make sure that the artists were okay and that the venues were okay and that the patrons were able to get their refunds. And I found it because we hit the refund button a lot in 2020. Yeah. And I was like, they've really made this work for us. And I appreciate that, because I know there was, a lot of shows out there that we had, physical tickets and things like that to navigate. And it was very complicated. So I was like, I had a new appreciation for online ticket sales. I was like, man, this is the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So my wife still works for Live Nation Ticketmaster. Been 20 some years she's been with them. And last year was a challenge because of that.
Oh, baby.
They basically had to refund every show.
Yeah.
It was a crazy year. So it's good, I think, for all of us to see that musicians are starting to get back out there. That's a relief.
I think we all just have come back with a different appreciation of not, I have to go do this today. So I get to do this today. Because I think we're like, who are we without this? I don't know what else to do. I'm doing this my whole life, and I think for every piece of this industry, and especially our crew and everybody behind the scenes, it was all, poor musicians. I was like, you don't understand that, like, for every one person on stage, there's 30 people propping them up. And it was really hard for everybody. And so to see the resilience of everybody in this industry, it was really amazing. I think we're all getting back up there, and we're like, all right, we're going to do this. We're going to do it again, Yeah. So it's been good.
That's awesome. Did you do any online shows during the break?
Yeah, I did a few, and it was more so at the early part because, of course, the album premiered on Billboard on March 26th and the world shut down on March 16th. And March 16th, the day the world shut down, was the day that 5,000 albums showed up on my doorstep that I'd pay rush shipping on to get there in time for tour. And like the giant pop-up banners of myself, and I had them up in the living room, and I was like, this is a little weird, So I ended up releasing the album on Facebook Live. Was supposed to have a big Nashville show at City Winery, and then was supposed to have I was like, and that was like before Facebook Live shows were cool. And I was like doing it in like the office, and I was like trying to make look like there was no tech. This is like downbeat. Like, this isn't like a month or two into the pandemic where everything is like, it's so hip, we're all doing online. We're all just like, what the hell is happening? Am I like, I'm like lighting the room with like a teddy bear in my place, being like, can you see his face? And you're not allowed to have anybody in your house. So it was the whole thing. Did that. And some of the people I was working with at the time, they had sent me up on different writers rounds and different little takeover spots, and did that for a couple months, did a few, and then frankly I went and sat on the family farm and enjoyed some herbals for the better part of a year.
We've taken it full circle.
I did do it for about 4 months. I really did all the things, and I was like, man, the world is burning. They're not interested in me, and especially at that time, remember how many things were going on. We had we had George Floyd, and we had the pandemic, and we had politics, and the world was burning, and I just felt that it was just both in poor taste and also just inconsequential to be sitting there being like, I put out a song, everybody listen.
I needed that type of thing though.
Well, so we did do it, and then eventually I was like, I haven't been home for more than 3 days at a time in about 8 years. I'm gonna be sitting by the lake. And when this thing blows over, I'll be getting back up again. And that's what I did. So here we are.
Yeah. Well, Callie, this has been terrific. You have to come back. This was so much fun.
I loved it. Yeah, no, I feel like we could talk for 100 hours. So next time.
I don't know if anybody would listen to us at that point.
No, but next time we could get into like some really weird things or really like oddball things. And then I feel like we would get some weirdos listening to us at least.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what this show needs. More weirdos.
Listen, the internet's full of them. It's not hard to find.
All right, Callie, hold on one second. All right, so that was the talented and a little bit hilarious Callie McCullough. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. She was an absolute blast. I want to bring her back because I bet the tour stories are hilarious. She was telling a couple off camera. So funny, so funny. So we'll definitely try to bring her back. The album is After Midnight, so please check that out. It's, if you're a fan of some of that older school country, but with maybe a new twist, this music's for you. She's so good, just a beautiful voice. So definitely check that out. Thank you guys so much for joining us again this week. We really appreciate the support. If you haven't done so yet, we could use help with our YouTube channel, MeisterCon Pod. If you could subscribe to that, it'd be a big help. You can also find all 300 plus episodes, audio and video of the show on our website, meistercon.com. We've got a funny, geeky blog that Brett writes. He's such a good writer. It's terrific. There's, if we're doing shows in the studio, it'll let you know. If we're going on the road for conventions, it'll be on there. So check that out, meistercon.com. Until next time, thank you guys so much. Bye, everybody.